The blanket back out for this one because I need to talk about something that's kind of been bothering me. A few weeks ago, I was watching the Witcher 4 tech demo at the 2025 State of Unreal, genuinely excited about what I was seeing. And of course, one of the first
If the game is in fact running at 4K 60 on the base PS5, that is quite an achievement and must be praised because that is such a significant optimization with whatever engine they are using. Which means hopefully if it runs at 4K 60 on the PS5, it should run at 1440p 60 with a low end to medium rig on a PC, hopefully.
first things that I realized is that Siri looked incredible. I immediately noticed a difference in her design, and I remember thinking, oh wow, they actually listened to fan.
So I'm just going back on memory, so the video will show of like older footage, but they did make her scar. They did make her scar a little smaller. They did change her face. She looks more like she didn't look bad before, but now she looks even better. And I don't want to say they're gaslighting us because you can make that argument, sure, but let's just say it's not finalized footage and it is in pre-development. I'm giving them the benefit of the doubt, but given from the success of Stellar Blade, because of the beautiful character designs, I'm pretty sure they're starting to change their mind. You can't, guys, you can't beat your basic instincts to procreate. You see a beautiful woman or man, like your brain is gonna notice it.
Siri looked incredible. I immediately noticed a difference in her design, and I remember thinking, oh wow, they actually listened to fan feedback and refined her design. That's a little bit surprising. Then, not even a few hours later, CD Projekt Red
look at that, guys. That's
tells press that they hadn't changed. Wow, they actually listened to fan feedback and refined her design. That's a little bit surprising. Then, not even a few hours
that's beautiful.
later, CD Projekt Red tells press that
they did not
hadn't changed her, besides two very
No, that's lying.
minor adjustments. And basically that what I was seeing with my own eyes wasn't actually what I was seeing. You know that feeling when someone says or does something right in front of you, and then when you
Yeah, dude, they should not have done that. Like, it is... She does look different. It's very noticeable.
point it out, they look you in the eye and they tell you that it never happened. Yeah, that's kind of what it feels like being a gamer in 2025. I think we're all being gaslit pretty hard at this point. The state of the industry as a whole has gotten more and more questionable over the years, but lately it seems like it's all been coming to a head, and over again, I've recognized the pattern of being told that what we're seeing, feeling, and experiencing is actually not the case. This is kind of an important thing, and it matters to me because there used to be a time when you could generally trust what the industry professionals were telling you. When a studio
Yeah. Remember that? Where you can trust the media? That not anymore. Not anymore.
said they hadn't changed something, they hadn't changed it. When they explained why a game underperformed, their reasoning typically aligned with what players were actually experiencing. And when companies talked about their design choices, their explanations felt genuine and transparent. But somewhere along the way, that started to change. Now I find myself constantly second-guessing official statements and cross-referencing a studio's or journalist claims with what.
So I never trust any journalist or studio what they say. I don't trust it at all. If the game looks interesting and I buy it, I'm gonna play it, and I'm gonna come to my own conclusion, because at this point you can't trust them at all. They will literally gaslight the crap out of you.
What I can see with my own eyes, and I'm always wondering if there's some other angle or narrative being pushed. The erosion of that basic trust between the gaming industry and us, their audience, that's what really bothers me. Because when you don't have that basic foundation, when you feel like you can't trust the people making the games to be honest about the games they're making, everything else starts to crumble. So
I will say it again. There's only two game development team I trust, and that is From Software and the Monster Hunter team. Given from Monster Hunter Wilds, a little less so with Monster Hunter team, because it does seem like they literally pushed out the game knowing that the PC performance would suffer.
Today we're going to talk about some recent examples of...
But they still have my respect and my trust, because no other game development company, I don't trust them. Maybe other than Team Ninja's probably in there too, because their games run pretty well as well.
Industry gaslighting, because I fear the feeling of, I think I'm going crazy, has finally caught up with me. Let's start with the moment that really sparked this whole video, and honestly made me question my own eyes. CD Projekt Red delivered a beautiful tech demo that gave us a gorgeous slice of the direction that they're hoping to take with Witcher 4. Kelpie looks like she just got plucked out of Anna Sewell's novel, and the world of the game is absolutely captivating. And yes, they're telling us that the demo is running at 60 FPS with full ray
That's crazy. 60 FPS, full ray tracing on the base PS5.
Tracing on a base PS5, which is pretty cool, I guess, even though this is just a demo. So after watching this not gameplay,
I don't know how not enhanced, but how much ray tracing is applied. But I have a 4080, and even if you have a little bit of ray tracing, that totally tanks your performance.
of Witcher 4, I was a little bit conflicted. I wanted to be excited, but not too excited, while also being especially cautious since I'll be playing it on a PC. RIP to any Xbox Series S users. But then I saw Ciri, and my heart just lifted. I was genuinely kind of in awe of how beautiful she looked. She felt like the Ciri I remembered, the one I'd fallen in love with in Witcher 3, and I thought, wow, they obviously listened to fans on this, and honestly, I was really grateful and impressed. I thought it was
Yeah, she like it's so noticeable from that from when she first appeared with the first trailer they released. They might as well be gaslighting us. You can't tell me otherwise. It's a stark difference.
it was such a smart move to make changes and improve her design. It's just to have her be more in line with the old look and feel from the previous game. Although I am very sorry to this man who felt differently. Then, after fans began to celebrate and speculate, CD Projekt Red tells the press, we have not modified Ciri's face. According to them, this was the same model that was used for The Witcher 3, the cinematic reveal trailer from the Game Awards last December, and the new tech demo from earlier this month. They said it was adapted to work with the latest metahuman technology, but that the model was the exact same. And then, after talking about
Okay, so the model could be the same, but they definitely changed her face for sure.
it even further, they almost kind of cautiously admitted that they make slight improvements to her eye area. And then I just sat there squinting at Ciri's face for the next 10 minutes, feeling really dumb and comparing the two like I was going crazy because I thought that I could clearly see a pretty big difference. At this point, I've seen all the talking points, even from
Yeah, for sure. Like she's much softer here, more feminine. Over here, she's just like angry. Look at her eyes. It's like over here, she's like very softer. Her eyes just shows more emotions of like happy, I guess. Over here, she's just there's no light, literally, and I guess figuratively, there's no light in her eyes. And then her facial expression is like she's just like I wouldn't say as sad as like nothing. She feels nothing. That's what I would say. She's numb. Sorry, that's the cold. She is numb. And her hair, she's much softer, much more hopeful, much more warm. Even the sun is like reflecting off of her face in this photo right here. She's cold.
CD Projekt Red themselves, lighting, camera angles, cinematics versus the tech demo rendering. And yes, those do play a role. And listen, I am not a tech whiz by any means, but the bottom line is that when you put all three pictures up side by side, come on. She clearly looks.
Yeah, she does. Maybe they did improve the texture of her skin too here, or it's a better render for the most recent trailer. But yeah, she does look better, which was to be expected. You know, if they're gonna improve the game and release newer footage, I would hope they would look
between
better.
the cinematic reveal and this latest version in the tech demo, there have clearly been some changes made, and it's an obvious improvement that we should be celebrating. Now, you might be saying, NPC, is this even that big of a deal? You know what? You're probably right. But here's the thing. I was pretty surprised when they first revealed Ciri's design in the cinematic last year, and I was not alone. There was a whole range of responses. For me, I had no problem with the fact that she is older, and even though I love Geralt, I also had no problem with him not being the main protagonist. My problem was
So I did have a problem with Geralt not being the main protagonist because I'm not ready to say goodbye, and that's basically it. Now with Ciri, I hope they do use her more magical side of her powers. But yeah, Geralt, I would have loved to have Geralt be in the game. Maybe in The Witcher 5, maybe something happened to him. Maybe the Wild Hunt got him and captured him, and we gotta rescue him. I don't know. I would love to see Geralt back in the game.
was that her design was just weird. It was just off. It didn't look like the Ciri I remembered, even with her being aged up. It was like they were randomly trying to give us some new Timu Ciri. And now that she clearly looks different and more like her previous model in such a good way, why are we being told that we're essentially imagining these improvements? I don't know, just take the W, say, yeah, we worked to refine her look and move on. We're never gonna be mad at you for giving a beloved character the Sonic treatment, which, by the way, worked out really well for Paramount. They're literally working on Sonic 4 as I speak, so please.
They are working on Sonic 4, all right. The first Sonic movie was fantastic, and the second, I didn't see the third yet.
Please make this make sense. CD Projekt Red, your demo looked amazing, and your fans love you and they just want to praise you. Just let them. All right, moving on to BioWare, EA, and Dragon Age: The Veilguard, because
Here we go. Here we go, boys.
yes, the horse isn't quite dead enough. This is a perfect textbook example of blame deflection, and I'm still trying to wrap my head around how all of this is played out. So, Dragon Age: The Veilguard came out last October, a game that could have cost up to $250 million to make, and as we all know,
Bro, how is that game costing 250 mil? Now, if it's to pay the salaries of the dev team, totally understandable. But where's the rest of the money going?
it did not go well, to say the least. Critics and journalists across the board gave this game incredibly high scores. They were eating it up. Some even called it the best in the series, and
You see, critics, I am never trusting a critic ever again. Same thing for mainstream media. I am never trusting them ever again. They have had too much power and they have abused it. never, ever, ever getting my opinion on a game. I'd rather spend the money and return the game. But I play on PC, so that's a little more annoying. But yeah, I am never trusting GameSpot, IGN, Kotaku, any of those people.
Critic even gave it an 89 with 0 negative reviews. Actually, users, they gave it just a 3.9. That's
I'm only trusting user-based ratings.
pretty huge gap. And now we just have this weird situation where we're told by the industry that this is a great game. I mean, just look at the review scores. But players are having a much different experience. And this whole situation just added more fuel to the fire of gamers not trusting professional reviews. When there's such a massive disconnect between critics and players, what are we supposed to believe? What is the actual truth when it comes to the quality of the game? So all of this went down last October, and it seems like it had pretty much fallen to the wayside, a memory that everyone was just trying to forget until, for whatever reason, multiple reports and articles came out just recently attempting to figure out the real reasons for this game's commercial failure. According to EA CEO,
I'll tell you the main reason the game failed is because the game developers were in line politically with the reviewers, and they, as a collective, try to gaslight the player and the fan base, and it didn't work because we were all looking at the trailers and gameplay, and the game development, not the game, the player game community as a whole was like, nah, that's not it, Chief. You're trying to sell me some snake oil, and I'm not gonna fall for it. That's what that was. That's why the game failed. They were trying to sell us snake oil.
Andrew Wilson, the game failed because it didn't resonate with a broad audience that wants shared world features and live services. Okay, I guess I'll have to take your word.
No, that's not what it is. Once again, don't trust these writers, these quote-unquote journalists.
For it on that one, Andrew. According to Bloomberg, the blame was on the 10-year developmental cycle of pure chaos, including numerous.
You would think a game given a 10-year cycle, a 10-year development, would be good. Let's minus the overcooked effect. But this game was undercooked as well. It didn't even reach well done before they released it. In that 10-year development, that's crazy.
Internal pivots, project shifts, and the scrapping of those pesky live service integrations. But if you look at what players and many longtime fans of the series had to say, you see a different story. Some of the common criticisms reflect things like lack of player agency, dismissal of established lore, shallow combat systems, unlikable characters, weak storytelling, and yes, poorly written dialogue that felt very preachy and awkward. So many Dragon
Yes, all of the above.
Age fans have said that it just did not feel like a true Dragon Age game. And this misfire on EA's part directly led to them falling short of their 3 million player target by about 50% after it was reported.
Yep, money talks, baby. Money talks. I will say this again: the one universal man-made god that everybody worship is the dollar, and there's nothing changing that. We have the power. Like, if you got money in your wallet, they want it. You have the power. Don't let these game developers take your money.
Reported that only 1.5 million players engaged with the game. Layoffs followed, and EA's been trying really hard for the last 8 months to place the blame somewhere. But instead of listening to legitimate player criticisms or looking at the past 10 years of corporate meddling, their response was to essentially blame the gamers. Whew, there's almost too much gaslighting.
That's crazy. Because your crap product failed, you blame the consumer. That's insane.
Keep track of, but I feel like the facts are pretty clear. EA and BioWare put out a mediocre at best game, and their design decisions and motives were just not what the audience was looking for. And then when the criticism started rolling in, they blamed the audience and said it was their fault. How are we supposed to have honest conversations about what went wrong and how to avoid?
Because EA, big game, they don't care. They just want your money. They want to release crap and have you eat it and then have you accept it. All they want is your money. They don't care for your thoughts, your feedback, none of that. And that's what needs to be changed. Like, these guys think they're so big they can't fail, and they're gonna learn the hard way. I'm honestly hoping for the destruction of the Western game company, because we need a restart. That's the thing. We need a restart.
Avoid those mistakes in the future if we can't even agree on reality. But EA's got nothing on Ubisoft. Listen, I used to be a pretty big Ubisoft fan, okay? Assassin's Creed 2, Black Flag, Origins, Far Cry 4.
Same. I used to be a Ubisoft fan as well.
And of course, the one I'm sure you're all thinking of, Just Dance. These games were a huge part of my gaming life, so watching what's happened to this company, it genuinely does hurt to see. Like a tale as old as time, Ubisoft has been struggling after their recent debacles. They unfortunately suffered some pretty big losses after the underperformance of Assassin's Creed Shadows and Star Wars Outlaws, and what was their response? Well, they of course followed this new industry trend where their CEO blamed the gamers. Now, there was a lot of controversy surrounding this game before it even came out, and it
So this is for the game development companies. From now on, try to make a game around the fan base of the already established fan base. And when you make the game so good, and that fan base is it's so loud that the voices and the praises of the game will reach outside groups. They will try the game and they will like it because you made a solid product, and that's how you get new fans. You don't get new fans by trying to cater to everybody, and you have no substance, no identity of the game.
It was reported that Ubisoft actually had an anti-harassment plan in place when the game launched. It's wild to think that they were literally
It's like they're literally trying to make you spaghetti. They're literally trying to make you spaghetti, but have it taste like a taco. Like what? Just make an Assassin's Creed game, bro. And also Call of Duty is doing that. They're trying to compete again with Black Ops 6, 7. Trying to compete with Battlefield. I didn't even know they were making a new Battlefield. I thought Battlefield was dead. Like, what are they doing? Just, oh my god, enough time has passed where they should just go back to Black Ops 2 and then make a Black Ops 2 again, but make it better. Just enhance it. Because Black Ops 2 is the best Call of Duty they have ever done. I think they literally, Black Ops 2 was the pinnacle of the bell curve, and everything after that has been going downhill.
preparing for backlash before this game even came out. And just a really quick side note on this, I don't like the attacking or harassment of an individual developer. It is pretty wild to be in the business of making games for a living, something that's inherently supposed to be fun and engaging and escape for consumers, something that for the most part should be a joy to work on, and somehow put yourselves in a situation where you're preparing for backlash.
So, yeah, she's right, but also don't be the developer saying a bunch of crazy thing and attacking the fan base, because you're kind of opening yourself up to it. You know what I mean? But keep that shit online. Don't do anything crazy in person. That's just nothing breaking the law. Just keep your criticism online, because guys, let's not do anything crazy and you know in IRL. Keep that stuff online.
Over things that you intentionally.
But yeah, don't be harassing nobody. Even if the game developers are talking crap, they're not attacking you specifically. They're just generalizing. So don't attack them. They're definitely stressed. So it literally might be them venting. Sure, it's a little childish, you not taking responsibility and blaming the fans, but let them figure that out.
Acknowledged, chose to do, and could have completely avoided. It's like knowing the future, but still making the decisions that led to your death. But I digress. Ubisoft was a company that used to pride itself on delivering historically accurate and culturally appreciative games. So the fact that they're the ones that are making these missteps and also having some pretty disappointing responses to their Japanese community, it feels really bad.
Yeah, that's crazy. To totally do that, like, I don't know if you guys remembered with all the whole controversy, with the like historic Japanese figures, like making them like, I don't know, gay or cheat or whatever, messing up the torii gates, having Chinese architecture in the Japanese buildings, stuff like that. And when the Japanese people talked about it, like, they were totally shut down, like they should not have a say in their culture. But was the game good, though?
I mean, we're talking about a game set in Japan that many Japanese people are clearly not liking. When Shadows was delayed and pre-order slumped, instead of recognizing legitimate concerns from a large portion of the community, including the Japanese community, or recognizing that a lot of fans were calling out and preferring their direct competitor, Ghost of Tsushima, Ubisoft's CEO essentially said gamers were at fault when Star Wars Outlaw.
It's fine. Just have a Japanese developer make a game set in France and have the freedom, creative liberties to do whatever to their history. Yeah, it's fair play.
Outlaws sold only 1 million copies in the first month. He claimed that gamers have extraordinary expectations that are basically impossible to meet, even when delivering solid quality. Yeah, it's honestly a fascinating timeline here. Pre-launch, we expect some kind of toxic pushback. Post-launch sales dip, gamers complain too much. Investor call, solid quality is not enough.
So the other problem is too, is like these game companies, they hire people, and then when the project is over, they fire them, or people also move on. They don't. To my knowledge, not a lot of people stay on to the same team and have that relationship with the rest of their teammates, because they'll move on and they'll use different engines and stuff. So it's like every time you move on to a new workplace, you're literally starting off at like the low levels of like learning everything up again. If everybody on your team were like developing a game together for like 10 years, when they start a new game, like, they're not starting from scratch. Like, they already know what to do. They know how the engine works. They know how their teammates work. how their teammates think. And I think that's better for game development because, one, that chemistry with your teammates, like you will produce product faster. Because everybody knows or have an idea of what they're doing. That will actually shorten development time and make a better game, because it seems these newer games are like new people coming in every new game. It's like different teammates. Like, people don't have enough time to develop these ideas, and the combat fails, the story fails, the lore fails. Like, there's no substance to any of those aspects of the game. And I think that's what it is you have to have these people stay on these teams.
Enough. They're shifting the blame at every step, and when leadership reframes lukewarm sales as proof that players are too picky, every critique becomes toxic by default. But is that
Like, look at the Japanese. How many teams do you think leave From Software or the Monster Hunter team? Not a lot. A majority of those people are who made the games 15 years ago are still developing for these games, and they're at higher positions. They know the ins and outs of that genre of the game. And every time they release the game, a Monster Hunter game or a From Software game, like, it's a banger. It's a hit. They never miss it so far.
that really the only option here? Are there no other alternative reasons as to why your game didn't sell as well as you hoped? When gamers toxic becomes the default response anytime concerns are raised, it really starts to wear you down.
You should never blame the consumer. That's just the opposite thing you should do. You should take the time to reflect that maybe it's your fault that the consumer don't like your product.
It feels like being told that your years of support and investment in these franchises basically count for nothing, that it was never to benefit us, it was all for them, the company. And yes, I know, it is a business, and the whole goal for the business is to make money. But it's weird because it's almost like the consumers have no say, that what we want doesn't.
That's the thing. I think that because they see money, they try to undercook games and just release them year after year after year just to get the money. And all the games are being released are lack of substance, and all the company see is money sign. And they don't care, because if they may take a loss, it's like a tax write-off. But if you sooner or later, like, you're gonna run out of money, it might take a few decades, but guys, if you keep feeding the consumer crap, the bar is gonna be so low that anything that's mediocre is gonna look good.
Doesn't matter, and we should just appreciate whatever it is that they deem fit to give us. That wanting good games makes us the problem. And what happened after all of this? Well,
That's crazy to say. To think that having the consumer want a good product, it makes them the enemy. That's crazy.
Responded exactly how you'd expect, and their stock dropped by about 17%. I've never been an EA girl, but for Ubisoft in particular, this cuts even deeper
I
than
should have
just
bought some
normal
puts,
bad
yo.
business practices, because just like with my emotions with Nintendo, when you support a company for years and have so many good memories of playing their games, recommending them to friends, watching them repeatedly just turn around and blame you, their fan, for their failures feels like such a betrayal. This brings me to something I'd like to call the indie reality checks. We're seeing massive AAA titles flounder all around us, and
Yep.
yet somehow we're also watching indies and
So when I was a kid, I was not an indie guy, but now as an adult, I totally support the indies. They're the guys who's actually having creative freedom into making creative and good games.
indie-like titles completely blow up and experience huge success. The AAA studios have their ideas for why titles are failing, but when you look at the other side of the coin, the games that are actually winning, it tells a completely different story. And honestly, this gives me hope, because it proves that the problem isn't with gamers, it's with the approach. And nobody said this better than Sven Vinke from Larian at the Game Awards in 2023.
Studio made their game because they want to make a game that they want to play themselves. They understood the value of respect, that if they treated their developers and players well, those same developers and players would forgive them when things didn't go as planned. But above all, they cared about their game because they loved games. It's really that simple.
Now, I know Larian technically is no longer an indie studio, but he literally laid out the formula for success. They made a game that they wanted to play themselves. It's really that simple. The people in charge forbade them from framing the game with anything other than a team-first, entertainment-first, consumer-first approach. And they knew that if they did this, then the revenue would inevitably follow. When you focus on making an incredible game first, an engaging world, likable characters that draw you in, fun mechanics, compelling storytelling, and natural character development, the experience is not only fully immersive, but very successful. And when you look at some
Yes, the thing that should come first is gameplay. Second is story.
the criticism surrounding Dragon Age: The Veilguard, and you put it against Baldur's Gate 3, it showed that you can even have more progressive elements in your game without them feeling forced or performative. And their success clearly proves that, despite what
That's
the
the
media
thing, feeling forced. A lot of these TV shows, games are like forcing their ideology down your throat. There's gonna be pushback. There's definitely going to be pushback.
Players are a mixture of is and votes. I know everyone has their preferences, but across the board, most gamers can agree that they do not want developers sacrificing quality for messaging. If you've got forced messaging and an obvious lack of quality, you're in trouble, because you're clearly not respecting the player, and that respect is so important. Baldur's Gate 3 respects the player and their intelligence, and it honestly...
Exactly. So they could have their messaging for sure, totally, but it seems like the writers are not... They don't have the talent for writing. because guys, if you think about it, Metal Gear Solid could be considered a woke game. It's literally about the military industrial complex. Like, but the writing is so good that it doesn't occur to you that it could be. But it is.
It lets you engage with themes organically and in a way that makes sense a lot of times when and if you choose to. But Dragon Age tells you what to think and when to think it. So while AAA companies are telling us that microtransactions, live service elements, and $80 price tags are required, Sven and his team proved that the exact opposite approach works much, much better. Speaking of $80 price tags, allow me to follow up on my Nintendo video for just a minute. Nintendo launched the Switch 2 with marketing about how they've fixed and updated all of the original's problems. And very interestingly, they also noted that the Hall effect precision for the Joy-Cons would not be present for the Switch 2 for whatever reason. But even with that being the case, they said they had designed these sticks from the ground up to be more durable. And yeah, unfortunately, some players are already experiencing Joy-Con drift 2.0. There's also been reports of consoles shutting down without low battery warnings due to a bug and just general poor battery life than anticipated. And Nintendo has quietly...
Oh yeah, bro. Like, I literally played the Excalibur Pokemon Violet Excalibur raid, and my Switch was 86% when I started, and right when I finished the raid, 63%. It went from 86 to 63 like that.
Posted hidden recovery mode fixes and released information on how to patch these issues. Now, when you launch a new and improved console that immediately sees some of the same problems as the previous one, but you've specifically marketed it as having solved those problems, that's just not a good look. But the real gaslighting comes in how they frame any criticism. When fans pointed out that $80 for Mario Kart World, the 16th entry in the franchise, feels excessive, especially when indie studios are...
Yeah, like Mario Kart World is $60 game. That game is like, it's a good game, but it's not an $80 good game. Like, Nintendo's out of their minds, and I will continue to criticize them and make video criticizing them. I repeat, I will not let $80, $90, $100 games be the norm. Because I saw this happen when they announced $70 game, and I said and did nothing. I only spoke to people at my work and like friends about how this is a bad idea. I said nothing, and now we're here. And nobody else said anything either.
Delivering fuller experiences for
no other, from my knowledge, what I remember, no other YouTubers like, they didn't make a big enough pushing back on the $70 because they got caught up. I believe people got caught up in the inflation, but failed to remember or mention that there's more people playing video games than ever. So the inflation argument doesn't make sense because more people are buying video games and playing video games, so the inflation is not going to catch up to the company losing money.
Nintendo's messaging essentially becomes, well, you should be grateful we're giving you anything at all. Doug Bowser literally told consumers who couldn't afford a Switch 2 to just buy the original Switch instead. Well, Mr. Bowser.
Of course, he's them as a Bowser, of course.
Given some of these early hardware issues, might have helped some people dodge a bullet. Oh, and speaking of Switch 2 demand, someone was apparently so frustrated that they couldn't get one that they hijacked a Nintendo truck and stole over $1.4 million worth of consoles, which honestly...
That's insane, and that person should definitely be on the list and in prison, because, come on, guys, you can't be breaking the law.
I don't know. That just feels like the most Nintendo thing to happen during a console launch. But let's get back on track and talk about some legitimate indie studios who are truly becoming the David to these AAA Goliaths. Sandfall Interactive and Clay Obscure should continue to get offers. You might not know this, but they only have 34 core developers working on the game. Yes, the media has begun to try and honestly completely diminish this by making...
Once again, the media is your enemy. Never trust the media. Unless it's something really crazy, never trust the media. Never trust game journalism. They're a bunch of liars who's only going to try to feed you biased ideas that they have.
Making sure to clarify that Sandfall had many other teams who contributed to the success of the game, you know, the same as any other studio, but the facts are still the facts. They only had 34 game developers. We've also seen other indies like Citizen Sleeper, 1000 Resist, and Another Craft's Treasure hitting 1 million in sales with full teams smaller than most AAA marketing departments. Kisa Tower, made by a super small team, has sold over 1 million copies. Hades was made by Supergiant with a team of around 20 and became a cultural phenomenon. Celeste, a beloved platformer that tackled heavy themes, was made by just 7 people. And Gris, a beautiful exploration of grief and loss, was made by less than 20 people. And it sold over 3 million copies at this point. These aren't flukes. They're proof that quality has nothing to do with the size of the team. And another great thing about these teams that are pushing boundaries and crafting unique and engaging stories is that, for the most part, indies don't blame audiences when something flops. They don't call their critics toxic, they just focus on making the best games possible. Games that they themselves would love to play. The indie reality check shows us that when developers focus on passion over profit,
I am rooting for the indie scene, guys. I am rooting for them. They have my respects and they will have my money. These AAA people need to be taught a lesson. Like, we need to trim the hedges, guys. We need to trim the hedges because they're literally giving us crap.
Audience and prioritize game quality over corporate mandates or checkboxes. Success can and hopefully will follow. It shows us that it's not about the size of your team or your budget, it's about your heart and your honesty. Which brings me to one of the most frustrating examples of industry gaslighting, the weaponization of the toxic gamer label. And this was brought to the forefront again pretty recently with the release of Stellar Blade on PC.
Of course, if you just add toxic in front of anything and they'll weaponize it and throw it at your face.
Its initial launch, the PC release has been a massive success. Within the first week, it sold over 1.1 million copies on Steam, and it's now sold over 3 million copies across all platforms. But unfortunately,
Nice.
many of our beloved
Nice.
media were not super happy with the protagonist in this game. One
I wouldn't say beloved media. I started looking at them crazy when they gave Pokemon 6 out of 10 too much water.
journalist even
Or was it
called
7 out of 10 too much water? 7 out of
Eve a
10.
doll sexualized by someone who had never seen a woman. They ended up having to issue a full apology after it was said that Eve's design was actually scanned directly from a Korean model. And then, of course, other articles implied that the game's success was just because Eve only catered to the male gaze. Players, including women, clearly connected with this character and game, but somehow
Yeah. That's like, oh my god, I'm not gonna say this. People, every gender and sexual whatever, love Bayonetta. They love Bayonetta.
appreciating the character design became a moral failing. Here's where the gaslighting gets obvious. When games like Outlaws and Forspoken underperform, and when some fans express disappointment about not seeing the return
Bro, like her, like they fucked up this character so bad. Like her facial animation, like she looks like an insect wearing a human skin. I don't know if you guys remembered Man in Black when the bug came from and like crashed down and wore that guy's body, but that's what her face like reminds me of. They should have just copied the actor who's they scanned this. The actor is beautiful. The actor for Forspoken, she's beautiful.
of beloved protagonists like Jin Sakai or Geralt.
There's nothing wrong with the Forspoken character. It's just the game. The world is dead.
Because gamers are sexist and they can't handle female leads. But then we get a very female-focused game with female characters and a very prominent female lead, and it's super successful. I don't know, maybe it's not quite as they say.
Also, Bayonetta was extremely successful female lead. Her personality is fantastic.
Even with the success of Stellar Blade aside, there are lots of other examples of this. Again, take Claire Obscura as another easy one. It's got a majority female cast, and it's basically been praised by every gamer across the board. Or how about one of my personal favorites, a Plague Tale series? And even when I look at upcoming games like Last Sentinel, Tides of Annihilation, Resident Evil 9, or the new female protagonist in the first Berserker Kazan, the community generally seems pretty hyped. These games are getting very positive reception and excitement from the same audience that supposedly is sexist. So how does that work? The pattern is just too clear. According to many of our media and developers, when games with female protagonists succeed, it's despite gamers. When they fail, it's because of gamers. This really makes no sense. And like I've said,
It doesn't make any sense. They're literally grasping at straws just to make up some ridiculous thing and put it out there. Like, you can't tell me. I don't know if you guys watch anime or fairy tale, but like Ursa Scarlet is extremely popular. She's a fantastic female character.
said many times in multiple videos at this point, gamers love female characters. We just want good ones. Series like Tomb Raider, Metroid, Horizon, Bayonetta, and so many more are all examples of very prominent female characters with massive devoted fan bases. And when the industry deflects legitimate criticism by labeling it as toxicity, it's a perfect way to avoid addressing the real problems with their products. When every piece of feedback gets dismissed as sexism or bigotry, you lose the ability to actually improve. And more importantly, you lose the trust of people who genuinely want you to succeed. It's not about the gender of the protagonist, it's about the quality of the character and their ability to resonate with the audience. And we should not be gaslit into thinking that
It all comes down to writing. If you write a good character, the gender is irrelevant.
this standard is the problem. At the end of the day, even though some of these examples were a little bit more minor than others, what disappoints me the most about all of this gaslighting is that the majority of us actually want developers to succeed. We want games to succeed. Gaming is the greatest storytelling medium that we have, and when it's done right, nothing else comes close. That's why this industry generates more money than all other forms of entertainment combined. I've loved games my whole life because they've always had the unique ability to just draw me into a story in a way that's so much more powerful than movies or books. And they've introduced me to characters that I still think about so many years later. So please, we are not asking for perfection. We just want honesty. If you change something to better reflect your audience's wishes, you should feel encouraged to celebrate that, even if it's something very minor. And if you're
Yeah, I think they probably got scared and said, no, she looked like that the whole time. No, guys, like 10 toes down, own that shit. Own it. You guys are going back to making good games, beautiful characters. And that goes for every game developer. If you're going to have like messaging in your story, take the time to write that shit properly. And trust me, if you write the story, if you write a good story and have a solid gameplay, the game is going to be good. People are not going to agree with your story or your messaging, but if it's written well, a lot of people are going to resonate with it.
If your game isn't connecting with consumers, maybe that means you should look at your decisions leading up to the release instead of pointing fingers at us. When games succeed because they give gamers what they want, a lot of times the industry says it's just pandering. And when games fail because they ignore what gamers want, it's our fault for being too demanding. It's all a bit exhausting and it makes no sense, and we're tired of pretending that it does. We love this medium because it lets us live stories. We'll happily pay for greatness, but when you shrug off quality control, raise prices mid-generation, insult us, and then somehow spin the blame back on us, it feels like some sort of weird emotional whiplash, and we as the audience, as the customer, just want better. For us,
yes, I will not be abused. Not again.
for the developers for the games. We just want better. Even though it's been a rough few years, I still believe this industry and its leaders can turn things around. We've been seeing it happen more and more recently, and it feels like there might be a real shift starting. Because when studios are passionate about their vision and truly respect their audience, lightning strikes and magic can happen. But it starts with honest conversations and mutual respect. We are not your enemies. We're actually your biggest cheerleaders. We just need you to trust that we want the same thing as you. Great games. Thanks so much for making it to the end of this video, and look at this! First and foremost, I want to thank you all so much for being here, and I hope that my 300 Spartans are still here and can see just how far we've come.
This is where we hold them.
I am so happy that there's more creators and stuff talking about this. But like I said, guys, from my other reactions that I did, I totally see, I can feel the pendulum swinging the other way. Like, games are going back to being good. Like, the culture shift is happening. I can feel it. Like, we're going back to having beautiful characters, solid gameplay, and it's gonna be a good time, guys. It's gonna be a good time. I know the Eastern game developers, they've been doing that, so it's about time the West catches up again. But that's it for me, guys. I will see you guys on the next video. Peace.